I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I just watched a woman who owed her entire career to me slap my 7-year-old son across the face, and my wife laughed. The sound cracked through the open plan office like a gunshot, not the sharp pop you hear in movies. This was wet, heavy, personal. Lucas didn't cry. He just stood there, his cheek blooming red, his eyes wide behind his glasses. He was trying so hard to be good. That's what gutted me. My kid was trying so damn hard. Jesus. Rachel. I said, just her name. Flat, calm, the way you talk when you're already 3 steps ahead, and the other person hasn't realized the game is over. Rachel Mendoza, Vanessa's executive assistant, didn't even have the decency to look shocked. She smoothed down her pencil skirt, Armani, bought on Vanessa's company card, and rolled her eyes. Control your retard. Ethan, God, no wonder you hide at home all day. Some of us have closings this week. There it was, the R word, dropped in a loop high-rise where the average IQ was higher than the median rent. I felt Lucas flinch against my leg. I put a hand on his shoulder. Steady, don't react. Don't give her the satisfaction. Vanessa strolled out of her glass-walled office, coffee in hand, not a hair out of place. She looked at the scene, her assistant, my son, the shattered scale model of a River North development, and smiled. Actually smiled. Rachel's right. Han, she said, taking a sip of her oat milk latte. He needs discipline. Don't embarrass me in front of the team. Embarrass her. Not traumatize our son. Not tolerate workplace violence. Embarrass her. I looked around the office. A few junior brokers had their heads down. One senior partner, Mark something or other, met my eyes and quickly looked away. No one said a word. That told me everything I needed to know about the culture my wife had built while I was busy paying for it. I crouched down to Lucas's level. His bottom lip was trembling now. I wiped a tear off his cheek with my thumb, careful not to touch the red mark. It was already swelling. My jaw ached from how hard I was clenching it. Hey, I whispered. Look at me. He did. She's already fired. I said, keeping my voice low enough that only he could hear. She just doesn't know it yet. I stood up. Rachel was already turning back to her desk, muttering about entitled kids and stay-at-home dads. We're leaving, I said to Vanessa. It wasn't a question. Fine, whatever. We'll talk later. She waved a manicured hand, already pulling out her phone. I have a 10 o'clock with the Hendersons. I took Lucas's hand. His small fingers were ice cold and walked toward the elevator. No one stopped us. No one apologized. The silence was louder than the slap. In the car, Lucas finally spoke. Did I mess up the model? Dad? No. Buddy, I said, merging onto Lakeshore Drive. My voice sounded normal, detached, like I was discussing the weather. Rachel messed up. Big time. Mommy wasn't mad at me, he said quietly. She was mad at you. Smart kid. Too smart for 7 years old. Yeah, I said. She was. I didn't call Vanessa on the drive home. I didn't need to. I knew exactly how this would play out. She'd finish her meeting, grab lunch at Soho House, and then realize I wasn't blowing up her phone. That's when she'd call, to scold me for overreacting. By then, I'd be ready. We got home to our place in Lincoln Park. Lucas went straight to his room, not to play, just to hide. I watched him go, then walked into my study and closed the door. I didn't turn on the lights, just sat in the dark and opened my laptop. The screen lit up my face. I looked at myself in the black reflection. Same guy, same Ethan Cole, who'd spent the last 5 years playing the part of the supportive husband while his wife played CEO. Same guy who'd watched Vanessa take credit for deals I'd structured, connections I'd made, risks I'd calculated. I opened a secure folder. Lux Equity Group, cap table. There it was, clear as day. Silvercrest Capital, Cole Strategic Holdings, 84% ownership. Vanessa's name was on the letterhead, but my signature was on the wire transfers. My risk tolerance, my capital. I scrolled to the HR portal. Rachel Mendoza's file. Hire date, 3 years ago. Salary, $110,000 plus bonuses. Performance reviews. Glowing. Written by Vanessa. I clicked terminate employee. A prompt appeared. Reason for termination? I typed. Endangerment of a minor. Gross misconduct. Immediate effect. I hit enter. Then I drafted an email to legal. Subject line. Immediate enforcement. Key person clause compliance violations. I CC'd the board. All 3 members, including myself. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. I answered on the 3rd ring. Ethan, she said, her tone already sharp. What the hell was that? You just walked out. Do you have any idea how that looked? I have a pretty good idea. I said, it looked like your assistant assaulted our son. Oh, don't be so dramatic. It was a tap, and he broke her prototype. Do you know how much that model cost? $12,000. Ethan, $12,000. Let me get this straight. I said, leaning back in my chair. You're comparing a $12,000 piece of plastic to our son's dignity? Silence. Then you're impossible. You know that? Rachel's stressed. We're closing a $40 million deal this week. I don't have time for your midlife crisis. I smiled. A cold, empty smile. That deal closed 2 years ago. Vanessa, with my money, under my name. You just forgot. Another beat of silence. Longer this time. What are you talking about? Check your email. I said, specifically, the one from legal. I've initiated termination proceedings for Rachel, effective immediately. And I've called a special board meeting for tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. Sharp. You can't do that, she hissed. I'm the managing partner. I sign the checks. No, I said softly. You endorse the checks. I fund them. There's a difference. And you've confused the two for long enough. I hung up before she could respond. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear Lucas moving around upstairs. I opened a new document and started typing. Not a resignation letter. Not a threat. Something better. A valuation report. Because this wasn't about revenge. Revenge is emotional. Sloppy. This was going to be mathematical. Precise. I was going to dismantle her world the same way I'd built it, one spreadsheet cell at a time. My phone buzzed again. A text this time. From Vanessa. You wouldn't dare. I stared at the screen. Then I typed back. Watch me. I set the phone down and kept typing. Outside, the wind picked up off the lake. Inside, I could feel the shift. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was focused, like the moment before a scalpel hit skin. Lucas padded into the study, still in his school clothes. He stood in the doorway, watching me. Is Rachel gone? He asked. I saved the document, closed the laptop, and looked at my son. She's gone, I said, and she's not coming back. He nodded, like he believed me. Good, because I wasn't just telling him the truth. I was promising it. I opened the top drawer of my desk and pulled out a frame photo. Our wedding day. Vanessa smiling. Arm in mine. I looked at her face, then slid the frame face down into the drawer. Power doesn't shout. It waits, and then it takes everything. Tonight, I'd waited long enough. I was at the breakfast nook by 6, black coffee cooling in my mug. When my phone lit up with a call from Vanessa, I let it ring twice before picking up. Ethan, you smug son of a bitch. She started, voice low and tight. Rachel's standing in the lobby right now. Her badge won't scan. Security is looking at her like she's a thief. Fix it. I took a slow sip of coffee. Good morning to you. 2. Don't play cute. I just got a notification from ADP. Her payroll's been frozen. What the hell did you do? I terminated her employment. I said, per the bylaws, Section 4, Subsection C, immediate dismissal for conduct endangering minors on company premises. You were there. You saw it. I saw a misunderstanding. She snapped. You're really going to torch a 3-year working relationship over a misunderstanding? You mean the part where she called our son a retard and left a handprint on his face? No. Vanessa, I'm torching it over that. She exhaled sharply. The sound of her shifting gears from anger to calculation. Fine. Let's be reasonable. Reinstate her. Put her on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. We're in escrow on the Merrick Tower deal. I need her for the closing docs. The Merrick Tower deal closed 18 months ago. I said, you're thinking of the Henderson portfolio, and you don't need Rachel for that. You barely need her for stapling packets. You don't get to talk to me like that. I'm the managing partner of Lux Partners. I sign her paychecks. You endorse them. I corrected. Silvercrest Capital clears them. And since Silvercrest owns 84% of Lux Equity Group, which in turn owns Lux Partners, your signature is essentially decorative. Mine, however, is structural. Silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. Fast. Shallow. What are you saying? She asked. Quieter now. I'm saying Rachel's done. I'm saying the board meets at 8. And I'm saying you should spend the next hour reading the operating agreement you never bothered to understand. I hung up by 7:30. I was in the back of a Lyft heading downtown. The driver was playing some lo-fi hip-hop. I kept my eyes on the tablet in my lap. I wasn't looking at emails. I was looking at the chain of custody for every wire transfer Lux Partners had received in the last fiscal year. At 8 a.m., I walked into the Lux Partners headquarters, the same space where Lucas had been slapped 12 hours earlier. Same glass, same steel, same smell of expensive perfume and cheap ambition. Rachel was still in the lobby, now flanked by 2 security guards. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was coming undone, and she was jabbing a finger at the junior associate manning the front desk. I want my laptop, and my phone, and my goddamn commission check for the 4th quarter. Ethan doesn't have the authority to do this. I walked past her without breaking stride. Mr. Cole, one of the guards said, nodding respectfully. They knew who signed their contracts. Rachel whipped around. Ethan, you coward, hiding behind security? Man up and talk to me. I stopped, turned, looked at her the way I'd look at a line item error. You struck my son. I said, you use a slur protected under the ADA. You created a hostile work environment, and you did it in front of witnesses. Your employment wasn't terminated because I was angry. It was terminated because you're a liability. When I can't insure, Vanessa will fix this. She spat. She needs me. She loves me. Vanessa needs a liquidity event. I said, and she's about to learn she can't have one with you on the payroll. I walked into the conference room. Vanessa was already there, seated at the head of the table, flipping through a stack of papers like she hadn't just been panicking on the phone an hour ago. She didn't look up. You're late, she said. I'm precisely on time. I replied, taking the seat directly across from her. 8 a.m. Per the notice I sent last night. This is a farce, she said, finally meeting my eyes. Hers were red-rimmed. You called a board meeting without my consent. Article 7, Section 2. I said, sliding a printed copy of the bylaws across the table. Any majority shareholder may convene a special session with 4 hours written notice. I own the majority. I wrote the notice. At midnight, you were asleep. She glanced at the document, then pushed it away. What do you want? Ethan? Really? Is this about Lucas? Because we can get him into therapy. We can get you into therapy. But destroy my business over a disciplinary issue? That's insane. It's not your business. I said, it's my asset, and I'm revaluing it. I opened my tablet and turned the screen toward her. Since you've been managing, I said, using air quotes, we've seen a 14% attrition rate in senior brokers. Your expense-to-revenue ratio is up 22%, and your signature deal, the Henderson portfolio, was actually sourced by Marcus Chun, who quit 6 months ago because he refused to pay his draw. Marcus was lazy. She muttered. Marcus was billing $2 million a year in commissions before you ran him off. I said, but sure, he was lazy. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. You think you're so clever, playing the long game. But you forget one thing. I'm the face of this company. The clients love me. The press loves me. If you push me out, the brand dies. The brand is a logo and a lease. I said, both of which I hold. And if you keep talking about pushing you out, I'll remind you that your employment contract includes a non-compete clause enforceable in Cook County for 24 months. You leave. You don't work in commercial real estate in Illinois for 2 years. Can you afford that? Her mouth opened, then closed. She knew I was right. Illinois courts upheld reasonable non-competes, and I drafted hers personally. So what's the play here? She asked, her tone shifting again, this time to something colder. Resigned. You want a divorce? Fine. Take the house. Take the cars. But leave the company. It's all I have. It's not all you have. I said, you have a reputation, and I'm about to put it through a shredder. I tapped a key on my tablet. An email popped up on the monitor at the end of the table. Subject line: Form 8K filing, material adverse personnel action. Last night, I said, I notified our general counsel to prepare an 8K for the SEC. It discloses Rachel's termination and the underlying incident. It also mentions, in passing, that the managing partner failed to intervene in a workplace safety violation involving a minor. Vanessa went pale. You leaked that? To the SEC? Do you know what that does to our stock price? Lux Equity isn't publicly traded. I said, but our lenders read SEC filings. And when they see a material adverse action tied to the managing partner's judgment, they call the loan, which, by the way, is cross-collateralized against your personal residence in Lincoln Park. She stared at me. For the first time in our marriage, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not annoyance, not frustration. Fear. You're bluffing. She whispered. Am I? I pulled up another screen. I've already drafted the press release. Lux Partners announces internal review following workplace incident. It hits the Tribune wire at 9 a.m. Unless I delete it. 9 a.m. is in 3 minutes, she said, her voice cracking. Correct. She reached for her phone. I didn't stop her. She dialed a number, legal, probably, and started speaking rapidly. I couldn't hear the other end, but I heard her say, he's serious. He's going to crater the company. No, I don't think he's bluffing. Do something. She hung up and looked at me, helpless. I'll step down, she said suddenly, as managing partner. I'll stay on as a broker. Commission only. You can have the title. Just don't file the 8K. Don't call the loan. Too late, I said. Her breath caught. What? I already filed the 8K at 8:15. I said, automated system. And I emailed the loan officer at First Midwest an hour ago. The review process is triggered. You can't unfire a bullet. Vanessa, she stood up so fast her chair screeched. You bastard. You planned this. You've been planning this. I planned to build a company. I said, you plan to ride it. There's a difference. She stormed out of the conference room. I stayed seated, listening to the echo of her heels on the marble floor. A moment later, I heard her voice in the hallway. Hi, panicked, demanding someone get Rachel out of the building. Then, silence. I stood, gathered my things, and walked out. As I passed the lobby, Rachel was being escorted toward the elevators. She saw me and lunged, but the guards held her back. You're nothing, she screamed. Nothing without her. You hear me? Nothing. I stopped, turned, looked her dead in the eye. I was nothing. I said, now I'm the reason you'll never work in this town again. I walked out into Chicago morning. Cold wind, gray sky, the kind of day that makes you feel awake. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Probably a burner. Hope you're happy. You just destroyed 2 careers. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed a single line. Power doesn't shout. It waits. And then it takes everything. I hit send to myself. A reminder. A promise. The car pulled up. I got in. Where to? Sir? The driver asked. Home. I said, I've got a son to pick up from school. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it when I said I was looking forward to the afternoon. I didn't sleep Sunday. Not really. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running numbers. By 6 a.m., I was in the kitchen, coffee brewing, when Lucas wandered in, still in his dinosaur pajamas. Is today the day? Dad? He asked. I looked at him. 7 years old. And he already understood the rhythm of consequences. Yeah, buddy, I said. Today's the day. He climbed onto the stool next to me. Will Mom be there? She'll be there, I said, but she won't be in charge. Not after 9 a.m. He nodded, like that made sense. Maybe it did. Kids understand fairness better than adults. At 8:30, I walked into the Lux Partners office. The lobby was already buzzing. Word travels fast when an 8K hits the wire. The junior associates were huddled in corners, whispering. The senior brokers were pretending not to check their phones. The security guards nodded at me. Same two from Friday. Now officially on my payroll. I bypassed the elevators and took the stairs to the second floor. The all-hands meeting was scheduled for 9 in the main auditorium. I didn't go in through the front. I used the service corridor, the one Vanessa never used because it smelled like toner, and entered through the backstage door. Vanessa was already on stage, adjusting the mic, her back to me. She was wearing a charcoal gray suit, power colors. She called them. Behind her, the projector screen displayed the Lux Partners logo and a slide titled Cue to Performance. Setting the standard, I stood in the shadows, waiting. At 9 exactly, she started. Thank you all for being here, she said, her voice steady. Practice. As many of you know, we've had a challenging weekend. But challenges are what define us. They're what separate the professionals from the pretenders. A few polite claps, mostly silence. This quarter, she continued, clicking to the next slide, a bar graph showing revenue growth. We've proven that Lux Partners isn't just a brokerage. It's a brand built on a vision, on my relationships, on my willingness to make the hard calls. I stepped out of the shadows. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the room. It's built on my capital structure. Mind if I clarify? The room went dead silent. Vanessa froze. Her hand hovered over the clicker. Slowly, she turned. Ethan, she said, forcing a smile. I wasn't expecting you. You weren't expecting a lot of things. I said, walking toward the stage. I didn't rush. I didn't slow down. I just walked. A few brokers shifted in their seats. Mark, the senior partner from Friday, cleared his throat. Ethan, this is a private meeting. Perhaps we should. Should what? Mark? I asked, stopping at the foot of the stage. Should continue letting Vanessa rewrite history? Or should we start telling the truth? I turned to the room. For those who don't know me, I'm Ethan Cole, majority shareholder of Lux Equity Group, which means I own this company, this building, and everyone in it, including Vanessa. Vanessa found her voice. Ethan, please, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, I said, stepping onto the stage. I took the clicker from her hand. She didn't resist. You spent the last 3 years telling everyone you built this from scratch, that you're self-made, that your success is a result of your grit. I clicked to a new slide, the Lux Equity Cap table. My name, Silvercrest Capital, Cole Strategic Holdings, 84%. Vanessa's name, 6%. This, I said, pointing at the screen, is the truth. In 2021, this company was 12 days from insolvency. Payroll was missed. Lenders were circling. Vanessa was preparing to file Chapter 11. I stepped in. I restructured the debt. I injected $8 million in bridge financing. I personally guaranteed the line of credit with First Midwest. And I installed Vanessa as a public face because she was good at smiling for cameras. I clicked again. A series of emails. Vanessa to me. Can we move forward on the Michigan Avenue deal? Me to Vanessa. Approved. Wire the earnest money from Silvercrest account number 4028. Every deal you closed. I said, every commission you've earned. Every award you bragged about at Christmas parties. It all traces back to my signature. Not yours. Vanessa's face was the color of old paper. This is a hostile takeover. She whispered. No, I said, this is a correction. You didn't build this. You borrowed it. And then you let someone hit my son under its roof. I turned back to the room. effective immediately. Vanessa Cole is relieved of her duties as managing partner. Her employment is terminated for cause. Pending review by the board. Rachel Mendoza's termination, finalized Friday, stands. Both will be escorted from the premises. As if on cue, the doors at the back of the auditorium opened. Rachel stood there, wild-eyed, a Louis Vuitton bag slung over her shoulder. She must have talked her way past the front desk. "You think you're some big shot?" she shouted, striding down the aisle. "You're nothing. You're a nobody. A stay-at-home dad playing businessman. Vanessa's the one with the vision. I'm the one who made her look good." She was halfway down the aisle when I turned to face her fully. "Security," I said, my voice flat. Both of them. 2 uniformed guards moved in from the sides. Rachel spun toward Vanessa, reaching for her. "Do something. Tell them. You're the boss." Vanessa didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, staring at the screen behind me, at the numbers that proved she'd never been in charge. The guards reached Rachel first. She started screaming, not words, just raw, panic noise. They took her arms, gently but firmly, and started guiding her toward the exit. Ethan, please. I'll sue you. I'll sue this whole company. You can't do this." "You what's its hair go?" Then I looked at Vanessa. "You can walk out," I said, "or they can carry you. Your choice." She looked at the guards, at the brokers staring at her, at the screen. Then, slowly, she stepped down from the stage. Her heels clicked once, twice, 3 times. Then she stopped. "You'll regret this," she said, not looking at me. "I'll go to the press. I'll tell them everything. About how you bullied me. How you stole my company." I walked to the edge of the stage, leaned down, and spoke, just loud enough for front row to hear. "Go ahead," I said. "Tell them. And when you do, I'll release the forensic audit that shows you diverted client entertainment funds to your personal Amex. I'll show the emails where you instructed Rachel to falsify expense reports. And I'll remind everyone that while you were playing CEO, I was the one paying the bills." She flinched, actually flinched. Then she kept walking. The guards fell in behind her. The doors closed. Silence. I turned back to the room. 100 faces. Some scared, some relieved, most just confused. "Here's what happens now," I said. "Lux Partners continues operating under the same name. For now, Mark Jensen will serve as interim managing partner until a permanent replacement is named. All ongoing deals remain valid. All commissions will be paid, and effective immediately. We're implementing a zero-tolerance policy on workplace conduct. If you wouldn't say it in front of a judge, don't say it here." I clicked to the final slide. A single line of text. Governance isn't about control. It's about standards. "That's all," I said. "Get back to work." I walked off the stage, down the center aisle, past the rows of brokers who suddenly found very interesting things to look at on their shoes. As I reached the doors, my phone buzzed. A news alert. Lux Partners CEO removed following internal investigation. Sources cite governance issues. I stepped outside into the Chicago morning. Cold, clear, the kind of day that feels like a fresh start. My car was waiting. I got in. "Home, Mr. Cole?" the driver asked. "No," I said. "Lincoln Park. I've got to pick up." 20 minutes later, I was standing outside Lucas's school, watching him run toward me, backpack bouncing. He skidded to a stop, looking up at me. "Did it work?" he asked. I crouched down to his level. "It worked," I said. "She's gone. They're both gone." He thought about that for a second. Then he threw his arms around my neck. I held him tighter than I probably should have. When I set him down, he looked at me, serious. "Does this mean I can have cereal for dinner?" I laughed, actually laughed. The first real laugh in days. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "Cereal for dinner." As we drove home, I watched the city roll by. The skyline, the lake, the endless grid of streets where people fought to matter. I used to be one of them. Quiet, patient, content to pull strings from the dark. Not anymore. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Probably Vanessa. On a burner. You'll never be rid of me. I deleted it without replying. Then I opened my notes app and added a new line beneath the last. The loudest person in the room is usually the most replaceable. I hit save, looked over at Lucas, who was already counting skyscrapers. Dad? Yeah. Can we get a dog? I smiled. We'll see. For the first time in a long time, the future felt like mine again. Not Vanessa's, not Rachel's, mine. And I wasn't giving it back. I was in the home office by 6, already on my second coffee, when the alert hit my phone. Not a news ping. A legal notification from the firm we retained for reputation management. Urgent. Social media trend. Hashtag Justice for Vanessa. Press conference scheduled 10 a.m. Chicago Cultural Center. I tapped the link. A shaky live stream from some gossip blog. Vanessa, standing in front of a bank of microphones, wearing a cream-colored turtleneck and minimal makeup. The relatable victim look. Rachel was beside her, holding a tissue, eyes downcast. I gave everything to that company, Vanessa was saying, voice trembling just enough to seem authentic. I built it from nothing. And my husband, the man I trusted, the man I supported while he stayed home, decided to destroy me because I asked our son to behave, because I stood up to him. A reporter shouted a question. Ms. Cole, are you alleging domestic abuse? Vanessa paused. Perfect beat. I'm alleging a pattern of control, of financial manipulation, of gaslighting. He made me believe I was the founder, that I owned it, but it was all a lie designed to keep me dependent. Rachel piped up, her voice small. He threatened me, told me I'd never work in Chicago again. He's scary when he's quiet. The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. I muted it. No point watching the rest. I'd seen this playbook before, usually in divorce filings and shareholder suits. Vanessa wasn't fighting for the company anymore. She was fighting for the narrative. I opened my laptop and dialed into the morning stand-up with our legal team. 6 lines, 5 partners, 1 objective. Talk to me. I said, we got the 8K filed. Said Sarah, our securities counsel. Clean, no red flags. But Vanessa's PR team is pushing a narrative that you orchestrated a hostile ouster to cover up marital discord. Expect a lawsuit by noon. File a preemptive motion to dismiss. I said, cite Rule 12b-6. Failure to state a claim. Her complaint is a press release, not a pleading. Already drafting. Sarah said, also, Rachel's attorney is making noise about wrongful termination. They're claiming the slap was incidental contact, and that Lucas provoked her. I leaned back, pulled the lobby security footage. Timestamp 4:47 p.m. Friday. Zoom in on Rachel's hand trajectory. Have our biomechanics expert draft an affidavit. That wasn't incidental. That was a closed fist strike with follow-through. On it, said Mike, our litigator. But here's the bigger problem. IDFPR, Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, the folks who issue Vanessa's real estate license. They've opened an inquiry. Mike continued, based on the 8K and Vanessa's public statements. They're looking at moral turpitude clauses. If they suspend her license, she can't work in real estate for 2 years. Minimum. Good. I said, send them the full packet. Include the expense report she falsified in Q4. Highlight the $18. 000 client dinner. At Maple Ash, that was actually her birthday party. Attach the Amex statements. Make it clear this isn't a domestic dispute. It's a pattern of fiduciary breach. Done. Mike said, one more thing. Vanessa's lawyer just sent a settlement demand. $50 million. Half the alleged value of Lux Partners. They're threatening to take this to Good Morning America if we don't engage. I smiled. Cold. Engage? Sure. Have our response cite the prenuptial agreement. Paragraph 4. Section C. Any claim for equitable distribution is waived upon proof of infidelity or financial malfeasance. Then attach the surveillance photos from the Peninsula Hotel. March 12th. Her and Marcus Chun. Door 814. 3 hours. Silence on the line. Then Sarah cleared her throat. You had her followed? I had the company protected. I said, always send it, CC the board, CC the lenders, and leak it to the Tribune's business desk. Off the record, obviously. Let them know the victim was embezzling and sleeping with subordinate while her husband was funding the firm. Understood. Sarah said, one last item. Rachel posted a TikTok. It's got 400,000 views. She's crying, saying you're a billionaire bully who targets women. I sighed. Get it taken down. DMCA takedown notice. Claim defamation per SE. Then countersue for intentional infliction of emotional distress. On behalf of Lucas, use his therapy records from Monday. Show the causal link between her post and his anxiety spike. You want to sue her for a TikTok? Mike asked, half impressed, half horrified. I want her to understand that words have consequences. I said, and that my son's piece is worth more than her follower count. I ended the call and opened the SEC's Edgar database. Time to update the 8K. Addendum. Material adverse findings regarding former managing partner's compliance with Illinois Real Estate License Act. I attached the IDFPR inquiry letter and our response. Filed it. Timestamped. Immutable. By 10 a.m. The exact time Vanessa was mid-press conference, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice. Crisp. Professional. This is Dana Whitmore, Ethics Counsel for the Illinois Realtors Association. We're reviewing the filings regarding Ms. Cole and Ms. Mendoza. I figured you'd call. I said, we're recommending immediate suspension of both licenses pending investigation. The conduct described in your filing, particularly the altercation involving a minor, violates 3 sections of our code. I want to confirm you'll cooperate with our inquiry. Fully, I said. I've already uploaded the evidence locker. Access codes are in the email I sent your office this morning. We received it. Thank you. This will move quickly. Mr. Cole, very quickly. She hung up. I checked Twitter. Hashtag Justice for Vanessa was still trending, but now hashtag Lux Partners Audit was gaining traction. Someone had leaked the expense reports. The screenshots were everywhere. Vanessa's birthday dinner was being memed into oblivion. My personal phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa, not a burner this time. Her real number. You're ruining my life. I hope you're happy. Lucas will hate you for this. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded it to Mike. Add this to the IIED claim. Intentional infliction via parental alienation. Then I opened a new document and started dictating notes for the board, not about Vanessa. About the future, about restructuring the broker compensation model, about installing a chief compliance officer, about making sure no child ever walked into a Lux Partners office and felt unsafe again. By noon, the news cycle had flipped. The Sun-Times headline, Lux Partners ex-CEO faces license suspension amid embezzlement probe. The Tribune, whistleblower filings detail misconduct at high-profile firm. Even the gossip blogs pivoted. Vanessa's press conference was now being described as tone-deaf and ill-timed. Rachel deleted her TikTok. Her Instagram went private. Her LinkedIn profile vanished. At 3 p.m., my doorbell rang. I checked the feed. Vanessa, standing on the porch. No cameras. No entourage. Just her, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I buzz her in. She walked into the foyer, eyes darting around like she didn't recognize the place. I didn't come to fight, she said. Her voice was hoarse, raw. Then why are you here? I asked to ask you to stop. The IDFPR thing, the lawsuit, the press, it's overkill. Ethan, I get it. You won. Can't we just end it? I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd married. The woman who'd laughed while our son cried. The woman who'd spent 3 years building a myth on my foundation. You don't get to ask for mercy. I said, not after Friday. Not after the press conference. You made this a war. I'm just applying the rules of engagement. Rules? She hissed. You call this rules? Destroy my career? My reputation? Our son's stability? Our son's stability ended when Rachel's hand hit his face. I said, everything since then is damage control. And for the record, your reputation was a line item on my balance sheet. Now it's written off as impaired. She stared at me. Then she laughed. A bitter, broken sound. You know what's funny? I actually thought you loved me, that you'd always be there. Quiet, loyal, safe. I said, until you mistook my loyalty for weakness. She turned toward the door. Stop. I'll fight this. Ethan, I'll fight you in every court, on every platform, for as long as it takes. You can try. I said, but you'll be suing yourself with my lawyers, and when you lose, and you will, remember, I didn't take your company. I took back what was never yours. She left without another word. I went back to my office, sat down, opened my email. A new message from New York. Subject, merger discussion, Cole Strategic Realty. I read it twice, then replied, available next Tuesday. Let's discuss governance first. I hit send, then I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was plotting her next move. Rachel was deleting her social media. The board was scrambling to adjust. But none of that mattered, because for the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was building, and the foundation was solid. 6 months later, I got the invitation. Not the glossy kind, a plain envelope, heavy stock, embossed with a private equity roundtable seal. Panel discussion. Chicago Athletic Association. Topic, governance as competitive advantage. They wanted me to speak, not as Ethan Cole, the guy who fired his wife, as Ethan Cole, senior partner, Silvercrest Capital. I almost declined. Then I thought about Lucas, about the way he'd started sleeping through the night again, about the new school, where no one knew his mom's name or Rachel's face, about the therapist's note, anxiety levels normalized, child reports feeling safe. Safe, that was the metric that mattered. I accepted. The morning of the panel, Vanessa's name crossed my feed one last time. A short piece in Cranes, buried in the real estate briefs. Former Lux Partner CEO Vanessa Cole relinquishes real estate license following IDFPR investigation. No comment from counsel. Relinquishes, not suspended, not revoked. Relinquishes, the quietest possible exit. She dodged a formal revocation, probably as part of settlement that included a permanent bar from reapplying. Smart move. Still a funeral for her career, just a private one. Rachel was easier to track, or rather, easier to not track. Her LinkedIn disappeared. Her Instagram was deactivated. Last I heard, she'd moved back to her parents' place in Elgin. No lawsuits, no countersuits, just silence, the kind that follows a well-placed whisper in the right industry circles. She'd become a cautionary tale, passed between assistants and junior brokers like a ghost story. Don't get comfortable. The quiet ones on the building. I wore a Navy suit. Simple, expensive, the kind that doesn't announce itself. Lucas watched me knot my tie. Are you going to be on TV? He asked. No, buddy, just talking to some people. About what? About doing the right thing, even when it's hard. He considered that. Like when you fire mom. I paused. Sort of, but bigger than that. It's about making sure companies, big groups of people, have rules that protect everyone, especially kids. He nodded, satisfied, and went back to his cereal. The panel was moderated by a Wall Street Journal reporter, 3 other panelists, a managing director from Bain, a Goldman Sachs partner, and the CFO of a Fortune 500 industrial firm. I was a wild card, the guy who'd done the unseemly thing, mixed family drama with high finance. They stuck to the script for the first 20 minutes. Leverage ratios, board composition, ESG metrics. Then the moderator pivoted. Ethan, your name came up in some unusual context last year. The restructuring at Lux Partners. Most observers called it a hostile ouster. Others called it a personal vendetta. How do you reconcile aggressive governance with stakeholder interests? The room went still. I didn't flinch. I don't, I said, because it's not a reconciliation. It's a responsibility. Capital isn't the most valuable asset in a firm. Governance is, culture is, and the courage to protect both, especially when it costs you personally. That's the only sustainable competitive advantage. I leaned forward, addressing the room, not the moderator. People talk about shareholder value like it's abstract. It's not. It's pension funds. It's employees' 401(k)s. It's the janitor who counts on his paycheck every Friday. When a managing partner allows a hostile work environment, when she permits a minor to be assaulted on premises and then mocks him, she's not just failing morally. She's creating a liability, a material risk, one that gets baked into the cost of capital. A hand went up from the audience, a young analyst. But, sir, didn't you wait until after the incident to act? Why not intervene sooner? Because intervention isn't always visible. I said, I'd spent 3 years implementing compliance protocols, whistleblower protections, and mandatory training, all of which Vanessa ignored. The slap wasn't the failure. It was the symptom. And sometimes, the only way to cure the disease is to remove the organ. Silence, then a slow ripple of applause. Not enthusiastic, respectful, the kind that meant they'd heard something they couldn't unhear. Afterward, a VP from a Midwest family office cornered me near the coffee station. Brutal, he said, shaking my hand, but necessary. We got a similar situation in our Cincinnati office. Senior partner, questionable judgment. We've been too soft. Your approach is a blueprint. It's not about being soft or hard. I said, it's about being clear. If you don't define the standard, someone else will, and they'll define it lower. He nodded, pulling out a card. We should talk. Off the record. I took the card. Called my assistant. That evening, I stopped by the Lincoln Park School to pick up Lucas. His teacher, Ms. Alvarez, waved me down. Ethan, quick question. Lucas mentioned something in show and tell today. He said his dad builds standards. What does that mean? I glanced inside the classroom. Lucas was packing his backpack, chatting with a friend. Happy, present. It means, I said, turning back to Ms. Alvarez, that rules aren't walls. They're foundations. You build them strong so everything else can stand tall. She smiled. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. He's thriving. On the drive home, Lucas was quiet. Then, out of nowhere, Dad? Yeah. Is Mom ever coming back? I gripped the wheel, chose my words. No, buddy, not to live with us. But she's still your mom. That doesn't change. Okay, he said. Then, after a beat, can we get a dog now? I laughed. We'll see. Dinner was pasta. Lucas talked about his day. Math quiz, recess, the class hamster, normal things. I watched him, this kid who'd been through more than any 7-year-old should, and felt the weight lift a little more. Not gone, just manageable. Later, after he was in bed, I checked my email. The merger paperwork for Cole Strategic Realty was finalized. The new logo was clean. No glass, no steel, just a solid, understated font. Cole Strategic Realty, a name that meant accountability. I shut the laptop and walked into Lucas's room. He was asleep, one arm flung over a drawing on his nightstand. I picked it up. Crayon, a tall building. Windows lit up yellow. Below it, in shaky letters, Dad's building. I smiled, set it back down gently. He didn't get it quite right. It wasn't a building. It was a standard, a line in the sand, a promise that no one, not a wife, not an assistant, not a boardroom full of peers, gets to hurt what's mine and walk away. I went back to my study and opened the top drawer, pulled out the wedding photo I'd turned face down 6 months ago, looked at Vanessa's smile. Then I slid it into a manila envelope labeled Close Matters. On my desk, next to the envelope, I wrote a single line in my journal. I didn't fire them to win. I fired them so no one else would have to lose. I capped the pen, looked out the window at the Chicago skyline, lights twinkling against the dark. Somewhere out there, deals were closing, careers were rising, and somewhere, maybe, A kid was sitting safe in his bed, knowing the world had a few less monsters in it, because one man decided that silence wasn't the same as permission. Power isn't the ability to hurt people, it's the refusal to let them hurt yours. I stood, stretched, and headed for bed. Tomorrow, there'd be new problems, new spreadsheets, new battles to choose. But tonight, the foundation was solid, and the standard was set.